Tonight, border backups on hold, a new deadline on whether workers will strike or strike a deal. Travelers breathe easy for now.
I feel good that we're getting through quickly, and I hope that, the mediation goes quickly for them.
But the looming threat of disruptions by land, air, and sea remains.
This is about $3 billion a day worth of goods going back and forth across that border.
Shocking arrest. Canadian billionaire Frank Stronach facing sexual assault charges. Plus, water crisis. Calgary risks running dry after a major main break, with people asked to cut back even more.
We're hearing anything from a few days to a week.
Also, rents reach record highs. New builds not enough to ease the squeeze.
Awful. It's terrible.
And one last spin. Pat Sajak's emotional goodbye to Wheel of Fortune.
Thank you all so very much, and goodbye.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. A prominent Canadian businessman is facing criminal charges tonight. Frank Stronach, the founder of Ontario auto parts giant Magna International, is being accused of sexual assaults over multiple decades. CTV's Beth McDonnell is in Toronto with more on what we're learning about the charges. Beth.
Heather, these are shocking allegations against one of Canada's wealthiest and most prominent businessmen, Frank Stronach. The 91-year-old of Aurora, Ontario, has been arrested and charged with 5 criminal offenses, including rape, indecent assault on a female, sexual assault, and forcible confinement. It's alleged the sexual assault span from the 1980s to 2023. The timeline not a problem to prosecute, says this lawyer.
We do not have a statute of limitations in Canada the way they have in the States. So with going back 5, 10, 15, 20 years is not a problem.
Stronach is the founder of Magna International, an auto parts manufacturer and one of Canada's largest companies. In a statement, the company said, "We have recently been made aware of the charges filed against Frank Stronach. Magna has no knowledge of the investigation or the allegations that have been raised beyond what has been reported in the media. Mr. Stronach has had no affiliation with Magna since relinquishing control in 2010. For now, as this is an ongoing legal matter, we cannot provide any further comment." Peel Regional Police are leading the investigation. Tonight, police say they understand there is significant public interest in this investigation, but to protect the identity of and privacy of the victims and maintain integrity of the judicial process, they will not be providing further information. Stronach has been released on conditions and will appear in court next month. Heather?
Beth, thank you. And Stronach's lawyer, Brian Greenspan, releasing a statement late tonight, reading, "Mr. Stronach categorically denies the allegations of impropriety which have been brought against him. He looks forward to the opportunity to fully respond to the charges and maintain his legacy, both as a philanthropist and as an icon of the Canadian business community." Talks to avoid a breakdown at the border are in overtime tonight. The union, representing 9,000 employees with Canada Border Services, is holding off its strike plan until at least Wednesday. It's business as usual until then, with increasing pressure from mediators to help get a deal done. CTV's Heather Wright reports.
Relief for now. 1 minute after today's 4 p.m. strike deadline, the union representing Canadian Border Service workers announced negotiations will continue until Wednesday, averting a strike over the weekend that threatened to snarl travel by air, land, and sea.
I feel good that we're getting through quickly, and I hope that, the mediation goes quickly for them and it all works out.
Mediated talks between the Public Service Alliance of Canada, which represents 9,000 Canada Border Services agency workers, and the Treasury Board have been ongoing since June 3rd. At issue, wages, worker protection, benefits, and pension, with the union having previously said they are looking for wage parity with RCMP officers who make on average 15% more. And while CBSA workers are considered essential, job action could include work to rule, a tactic where employees do their jobs exactly as their contracts outline, which experts say could slow down travelers and those moving goods across the border.
Well, it'd be great if we can get a resolution, because this is about $3 billion a day worth of goods going back and forth across that border.
Speaking at an event earlier Friday, Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland said the government is monitoring the situation closely.
The parties are at the table working hard, and our view is the best deals are reached at the table. That's what we are very much working towards and hoping for.
Job action taken by CBSA workers 3 years ago nearly brought cross-border traffic to a standstill, causing travel chaos right across the country and disrupting the flow of billions of dollars in goods. Heather.
CTV's Heather Wright, thank you. People in Calgary are heading into the weekend facing a dire water crisis. The city, now at risk of running out of water, is urging people to reduce their use more than they already have. A major water main that erupted Wednesday may not be fixed for days. CTV's Alicia Fieldberg reports.
As crews clear the way for repairs on a concrete pipe big enough to drive through, Calgarians are asked to cut back water use even more.
We're not going to run out tomorrow, but I can tell you we will run out in the days to come.
The feeder main that burst in northwest Calgary Wednesday was a vital artery. Both water plants that serve Calgary and surrounding communities can produce 520 million litres of water per day. But due to the break, Glenmore Water Treatment Plant is now the primary source and can only produce 390 million litres per day.
Our demand today averaged 610 million litres. Storage throughout the city is being depleted.
So Calgarians are asked to cut back 25% more than they did Thursday when water restrictions began.
So that would be equivalent to a load of wash, a load of dishes, about a 5-minute shower, or one bath in the house.
This hydrology expert says the type of pipe that burst typically lasts about 50 years. The broken feeder main was 49, and many others in the city are about the same age.
I think this is a little bit of a warning card in terms of the age of the infrastructure.
Replacing them is expensive and disruptive, especially in a sprawling city like Calgary. Former longtime Calgary City Councillor and now Alberta's Minister of Municipal Affairs applauds the city's response.
I think we're lucky to be in a city that's able to respond as quickly and communicate as well as what Calgary's doing right now.
The city has had dozens of calls about people not complying with restrictions, but aims to educate, not ticket. And rather than mandatory indoor restrictions, it's relying on Calgarians to continue stepping up.
We are using more water than we're able to produce, so think carefully every time you turn on the tap, or think about running the dishwasher, or you're going to consider having a shower.
If water supply runs too low, people at higher elevations might be the first to see water flow weaken.
Places that are higher have the lowest pressures. They're going to be the ones that unfortunately run out of water first.
As for the pipe, crews have dug out enough water and mud to find the problem. Now they need time to fix it, and it is going to take some time. So Calgary and the impacted surrounding communities are expected to remain under water restrictions for the next several days. Heather?
Alicia, thank you. Finding a full-time job is proving to be a challenge for more Canadians these days. The latest employment data reveals a disconnect between those trying to earn enough to pay the bills and the employers doing the hiring. CTV's Jeremy Sharon has more.
Jobs were harder to come by, and more Canadians turned to part-time work to make ends meet, two of the biggest storylines behind Canada's latest jobs numbers. Canada's unemployment rate continued to climb in May, although only slightly, up just 1/10 of a percentage point to 6.2%, even though the economy added 27,000 jobs.
It's good to see the labor market isn't falling off a cliff, but it's softening.
Which is the intended impact of years of higher interest rates from the Bank of Canada. Population growth continues to outpace job gains, and even those gains, experts say, come with a caveat.
We actually lost 35,000 full-time jobs, but gained over 60,000 part-time jobs. What that means is that the involuntary part-time rate, so the proportion of people that are working part-time but really don't want to work part-time, they prefer to work full-time, has really jumped a lot.
Gains in healthcare, finance, and real estate were offset by losses in construction, transportation, and warehousing jobs. As the average hourly wage in the country grew by more than 5% year over year in May to nearly $35 an hour.
It's mostly going to non-unionized workers, the wage growth that is occurring, and mostly to management, mostly to men, mostly to management.
This snapshot from Stats Canada, an indication the Bank of Canada's efforts are working as intended, a softening labor market and economy helping drive inflation down, which supports predictions the Bank of Canada will keep cutting its key rate this year. Heather?
Jeremy Sharon in Ottawa. Paying the rent is another tall order in today's housing market. The average rent last month hit an all-time high, topping $2,200. CTV's Sarah Plowman now on the priciest places.
Across Canada, new buildings are going up, but so is the average price to live in them. The average asking rent in Canada is now $2,202, a new record high.
It's awful. It's terrible.
Well, we're lucky we get three of us living it together because we wouldn't be able to make it.
An analysis of listings on rentals.ca found Vancouver led the country. There, the average price of a one-bedroom listed in May was more than $2,600. The same cost nearly $2,500 in Toronto and $1,900 in Halifax. Toronto and Vancouver saw listing prices drop from last year.
However, it's a stark contrast to areas like Edmonton, where we're seeing creeping up to about a 20% increase year over year.
Canada's National Housing Agency says the country needs 3.5 million homes built by 2030.
So we're definitely talking about an insufficiency of supply.
Hughes says one challenge is creating the right context,
where the private sector has sufficient incentives to supply more without paralyzing demand because of increasing rents.
A group representing landlords praises Ottawa's move to waive GST on rental builds.
That will help, but we know it takes many years to get projects built, even if they start today.
This housing advocate says there's another problem.
When housing goes on sale, with it, it's being bought up by corporate financialized landlords.
The report notes that rent has also gone up for people who have roommates. The average listing for those apartments is now more than $990 a month across this country. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Moncton.
Shocking news tonight from the West Coast, and a warning, this story has graphic video. A former Apollo 8 astronaut was killed today when his small plane crashed into water near the Canada-U.S. border. Retired Major General William Anders was piloting the plane alone when it plummeted into the water off the San Juan Islands in Washington state. An investigation into the cause is underway. Anders is known for taking the iconic Earthrise photo in 1968, showing the planet as a shadowed blue marble from space. Anders was 90 years old. Coming up, shrinking support. The Prime Minister's popularity, tough times for Trudeau in a new poll.
That was a mistake.
Plus, the British Prime Minister's D-Day apology after an early exit. The Premier of Quebec has today condemned pro-Palestinian protesters who barricaded themselves inside McGill University's administration building.
These people came into the building. This is unacceptable. Now, regarding the outside camps, I would like to see that dismantled.
Police say 15 people were arrested, mostly for break and enter, after officers in riot gear clashed with students yesterday evening. They say protesters threw rocks and batons at officers, with pepper spray and tear gas used to disperse crowds. New insight tonight on what Canadians think about Justin Trudeau's political future. Fresh Nanos polling for CTV News reveals dwindling support for the Prime Minister's leadership. CTV's Rachel Aiello joins us from Parliament Hill with what may be driving the numbers. Rachel.
Heather, with persistently poor polling numbers, questions about the Prime Minister's future have been swirling for months. Now, new Nanos numbers for CTV News show support for Trudeau continues to decline. Canadians are 3 times more likely to prefer someone other than Trudeau lead the Liberal Party into the next election. 56% of respondents say they'd prefer the Liberals' campaign with someone other than Trudeau as leader. Just 17% of Canadians surveyed said they think Trudeau should stay on. Support for the PM was lowest among Atlantic Canadians, a region the Liberals have tried to target with carbon tax carve-outs, while British Columbians, who Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has been courting, they were the most supportive of Trudeau's continued leadership. Now, the Liberals have long said that the only poll that matters is the one on election day. Well, a by-election later this month in a long-time Liberal stronghold in Toronto is about to put the Trudeau brand to the test. Political insiders are now speculating that the outcome of that vote could sway whether Trudeau hangs on. Heather?
Rachel, thank you. World leaders have condemned an attack on Denmark's prime minister who was assaulted by a man in Copenhagen. It's unclear if Mette Frederiksen was physically injured during the incident, which unfolded in a square in the capital. A suspect has been arrested over the ordeal. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak apologized today for leaving D-Day commemorations in France early.
On reflection, that was a mistake, and I apologise.
Sunak, who received widespread backlash for the decision, returned to the UK for a pre-recorded TV interview and to continue campaigning ahead of the upcoming British election. His early departure means he missed the international ceremony held at Omaha Beach, attended by other world leaders. Still ahead tonight, Celine Dion opens up about her health battles. Celine Dion is sharing more details about her struggle with stiff person syndrome in a preview of a longer interview on NBC's Today Show.
It's like somebody's pushing your larynx this way.
Oh.
So it's like you're talking like that, and you cannot go high or lower. It gets into a spasm. It started here.
Yeah.
No, okay, it's going to be fine. But it can also be in the abdominal, can be in the spine, can be in the ribs. But it feels like if I point my feet, they will stay in an, or if I cook, because I love to cook, my fingers, my hands will get in a position.
Like they're
my
cramping.
feet, it's cramping, but it's like in a position of like you cannot unlock them.
Dion said she'd even suffered broken ribs from some more severe spasms as the condition keeps her off the stage. The full interview airs Tuesday ahead of the release of a documentary from the singer later this month. The power of music has been celebrated in many ways. A new partnership between Toronto's Symphony Orchestra and the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health is putting the stories of patients into a performance that brings culture and community together into a masterpiece called The Art of Healing. CTV's Pauline Chan explains.
The musical work is called Ikiru, Japanese for to live.
The work really was born out of conversations that happened over 8 weeks with participants of the Art of Healing program at CAMH and also players from the Toronto Symphony Orchestra.
Alexander Abramenko is one of the participants. He's been a client of CAMH for several years, dealing with anxiety, depression, and borderline personality disorder, but he's a textile artist, not a musician.
I'm extremely envious of musicians. I wish I could sing on key.
Still, he knows the therapeutic power of music.
Music is a kind of language that really does a really good job at describing your inner state, your feelings, your emotional landscape.
Métis composer Ian Cusson, who has also dealt with mental health issues, says he has no background in counseling.
We could heal together and share our love of music and share the impact and power that art has to heal.
The 8-week program was inspired by award-winning Indigenous musician Jeremy Ducher and renowned cellist Yo-Yo Ma.
It was a real pleasure to be part of this community that isn't there to talk about hardships or successes or anything, but that's there to do something very simple.
What we hear is that this is a really profoundly deep experience that has connected people really at their core being.
And the success of the TSO CAMH collaboration is being continued with a new group of participants and musicians in a second group. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
After the break, the category is Television Legends. Pat Sajak bids farewell to Wheel of Fortune. For more than 40 years, he's been an after-dinner fixture in living rooms across North America. And tonight, after so many phrases, places, and people, Wheel of Fortune host Pat Sajak had one final word: goodbye.
It's been an incredible privilege to be invited into millions of homes, night after night, year after year, decade after decade. And I've always felt that the privilege came with a responsibility to keep this daily half hour a safe place for family fun. That's it. Thank you all so very much, and goodbye.
That moment spells the end of an era for nightly television. CTV's Geneviève Bushman now on how decades of puzzles and personality created those positive memories.
Well, the time has come to say goodbye.
After more than 8,000 episodes prompting contestants to choose a consonant or by a vowel, Pat Sajak signed off. Over more than 4 decades.
The expected highs this Saturday
Sajak,
and
a
Sunday.
former local weatherman turned game show host,
My name is Pat Sajak.
became a fixture of the cultural landscape. The hangman-style word puzzle show he hosted offered a family-friendly escape. But Sajak says it became more than just a game.
A place where kids learn their letters, where people from other countries hone their English skills, where families came together along with friends and neighbors.
Vanna! A year after he signed on, longtime letter turner Vanna White joined him. She offered a love letter to her departing co-host.
What an incredible and unforgettable journey we've had. And I've enjoyed every minute of it with you.
Ever the guy next door on air, Sajak willed contestants to find the right words.
Pony, orchid.
You might have been overthinking, thinking of a type of orchid.
Pink.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Last year, an Ontario rapper, entrepreneur, and Wheel of Fortune fanatic saw his dream come true. His fashion brand, The Ends, was on the board as a prize during 6 episodes.
To me, that is the memory that I'll hold on to forever, because an icon like Pat Sajak on national television was able to talk about my clothing line and offer it to a guest as a prize. That's priceless. It's priceless.
He says Sajak's humor and quick wit were central to the show, and that the next host will have big shoes to fill.
How does he know about the teas so fast?
Radio and TV personality Ryan Seacrest is taking over, with White staying on.
This is Wheel of Fortune, Joe! Good night, everyone!
And so the show will go on, even if a staple of many TV viewers' lives has signed off. Geneviève Bushman, CTV News, Montreal.
He is a legend. That is our newscast for this Friday. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast.